Hi and welcome to The Venture. I'm Suzi Dafnis. I'm here with Robert Gerrish and Phil Dobbie, and we are talking today about social networking, specifically its application to business. So, how good a tool is social networking for business? Let's start with you.
Look, I think in the right hands it's a very good tool. In the wrong hands it's dangerous, and I think we're already seeing quite a bit of both. But I think a lot of businesses dive into it without necessarily doing a whole lot of planning, and I think in those hands it can be quite dangerous. Or certainly detrimental, but I think if you use it properly, I think it's brilliant, and I think there's a number of people, certainly in the small end of town where I come from, who are using it very effectively and in a number of very different ways.
Yeah, we're often being asked, should I be on Facebook, should I be on Twitter, should I be on LinkedIn? And of course, they're the big networks right now in that area. How do you guide people when they ask you that sort of question?
It depends what you want to do. I mean, if you really want to reinforce your brand, then a lot of companies use Facebook pages for that. If you've got a lot to say, then it's good to be on Twitter. It really depends on what sort of message you want to put out there. Sometimes, it's a big thing. I mean, this is the public voice of your company, and very often it's given to very junior people who may not have been in the business for very long. It's given to young kids who fresh into the business, all of a sudden have this job, which is almost like you are the corporate voice. It's
like giving the postman boy the chairman's Mercedes or something.
Yeah, well, it is pretty much like that, isn't it? And you see that happening a lot. And I follow some tweets from big corporates, and I think, why are you saying that? Or even worse, you have a whole team of people, and they've all got different voices. And so these businesses, are using the tool, but they're using it badly, and they're sending mixed messages to customers in a way that they wouldn't have done previously. They'd spend millions with their advertising agencies, getting the message tight like that, and then they go and blow it all by a misplaced tweet, and you see it happening a lot.
Come on, Suzi, you're really active in this space. How are you using it?
Well, a couple of things. We use it to listen to what people are saying about the areas that not only us, but I see businesses using it to listen to the conversations people are having about their brand. Now, you might be a small business and no one's having a conversation about your brand, but they could be talking about your industry. So, if I was in the hair industry, I would be looking at seeing what people are saying about hair. Are they having a bad hair day? What issues are they having?
Staring at Phil?
Didn't ponytails go out in the 80s, for example?
No, they can make a resurgence.
So it can be a listening tool just to see what people are saying about your industry, because that could be a real indicator of where there are gaps in the market. It can be used for customer service, and I give a great example when I'm talking about social networking of being in the Virgin Lounge and checking in, and The Cure, a band that those of us who are old enough to remember who The Cure is will know, was playing. And I tweeted that, I'm just checking in at Virgin, and a particular track by The Cure is playing within seconds. Virgin had tweeted back to me saying, "Great to meet another music lover, have a great flight." So from a customer care perspective, I was impressed. I was really impressed.
I agree, and I think it's interesting. I observe a lot of people, a lot of people in our sort of community are working by themselves, and the vast majority are working at home. And I see a lot of them using Twitter very much as just a means to stay in contact. It's kind of when you're in a workplace, you talk to your colleague next to you, or you smile at them, or you meet them in the kitchen. You don't have that when you work from home. So Twitter can be a very good way just to share, stay in touch, what kind of a day you're having, that sort of stuff. And I think that's fine, and I think that's support.
It sounds incredibly dull to me.
Well, it might.
You're following someone and saying, that's what people are saying, isn't it? When it started, it was like, why do I want to follow all these people who are telling me all their movements all day?
The beautiful thing is you don't. If you don't have to follow them. So, but if your purpose, if one of your purposes is just to stay connected, if that's your goal or your strategy, then those networks can work very, very well for you. Because I think an important part of business is not just finding customers, but it's staying focused, staying happy, staying on the job, as it were. And I think that Twitter particularly is a great way people can use it. I agree, I don't want to know what you had for breakfast.
I do tell people what I had for breakfast, but I'm also...
You do?
I do.
Okay.
If I'm out at a great cafe, I'll put that in there, because the other times I'm sending them a link to a great article or to a resource or to a course, or I'm at a course and I'm tweeting. But then if it sounds too much like a corporate message, for my audience, that doesn't work. For them to know that I went to the gym or I went to a great restaurant and recommend it, adds a bit of person to the personality.
That's fine. Again, you're using it very much as an individual, aren't you, for your business?
For my business, yes.
Exactly. But it's you, it's Suzi Dafnis that's talking in that.
All of this exposes business, though, doesn't it? So if you go to I remember just a couple of weeks ago, I was going to a cafe and it was awful. but they had signs up everywhere saying check in, and check in on our Facebook page, tweet us and everything. I was thinking, sure, I'll tweet you. I'll tweet you. The food here is awful. I'll check in.
Did you do that?
And I did.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And because it exposes you, and that's the one thing.
Yes.
If you go into these networks, you've got to make sure that your product is A1, because people will talk about you.
Well, I agree, but I think if you go into business, you should be sure that your product's
Absolutely.
A1.
That's right.
And I remember, when we started with Facebook, and as I say, we are not sort of early adopters. We come in a little bit later. And the reason we started a Facebook page was our forum community, and forums are still very, very active. Our forum community screamed at us and said, why haven't you got a Facebook page? And we said, well, yeah, good question, actually. So we started it as a response to kind of community demand, and they've just gone nuts on Facebook now.
Yes.
But I think some people's use of social networking is not like that, and that's.
But it's a real commitment for businesses, and if you're going to have a Facebook page, and I think you mentioned this earlier, and I like your page, and then nothing happens, then
like
what's the point of having it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like anywhere. If there's no communication going, so once you commit to having a page, then you need to have a communication strategy.
It's a two-way strategy, isn't it? I think that's what a lot of people tend to forget about. I mean, I use a lot of these tools for broadcasting, basically, because I'm a journo, and I've spent time writing these terrific articles, and I want people to go and read them or listen to them. And so
when are
I
they
use
getting published?
There's a bit of a backlog. You'll start seeing them soon. But I want people to go and find out about what I've written. So I'm using it pretty much as a one-way tool. But I can see the real benefits for a large corporate, particularly as a research tool. And we're starting to see this happening a lot, where for your, as you said, for not just necessarily for your business, but for your category, searching on keywords. I mean, there's a lot of smart technology now that's not just looking at the words; it's looking at the tone of tweets as well. So if your company is getting mentioned in a negative light, you can do this not just in a qualitative way. You can do it in a quantitative measure as well, and look at the strength of your brand over time.
How long a day are you spending on social networking?
We do a lot to pre-plan our social networking. So whether it's the post on our Facebook page or what we're tweeting, a lot of it is planned out. Because what we do is we make use of other content, if you like. So we have a newsletter. We're going to put the highlights of that newsletter in our tweets and on our Facebook page over the next week. Sure. If we have interviewed some great business women.
Are you doing 8 hours a week, 20 hours a week? How long are you?
Probably 2 to 3.
Yeah, okay. So,
maximum.
That's you really active 2 or 3 hours maximum.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
if you
not
looked at what
daunting,
we're doing, it looks like we're talking all the time, but we're very, very organised around it. So it is definitely integrated into our business as a process for customer service, for marketing, for distribution.
Well, I think one of the things that stops a lot of businesses going in is they look at it and think, oh my God, this is so daunting.
Yes, and how do I get a return on investment for my time and my energy?
But when you sit there and you work it out, as long as you've got your strategy right, the actual time involved does not have to be that huge, does it? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I remember the lovely phrase I read recently is, reach the people who count, don't count the people you reach, which I think is a lovely way of thinking about social networking. So reach the people who count, don't count the people you reach. It's very easy to get fired up and think, oh my God, they've got 5,000 followers, why have I only got 200? It kind of doesn't matter.
Have you only got 200 followers?
No, 1,000. But the important thing is to reach the people who count. But for that, you need to know, well, who are those people? It's who are your ideal customers? Who do you want to be on the receiving end of your messages? And I say to businesses, anyone that thinks, I'm missing out on social networking, well, then miss out on it until you're ready. You're not going to miss the bus. It's not like that. This isn't going anywhere. This isn't a fad. This is here.
But part of that readiness is being able to respond. And I think that's the other big danger as well, is that the moment you put your hand up and you're out there and you say, here we are, we're on Facebook, we're in Twitter, people are going to communicate through that channel. And if you're not ready for it, if you haven't got the customer service support team, because I've several times I've tweeted a complaint about a company, and they've responded very quickly, and then it's hit a brick wall because they just haven't had the mechanism to deal with it. They said, oh sure, we'll get onto it, and they never did. And so you tweet again and say, well, hang on, what are you doing about it? And they go, oh, we'll get onto it, and that's all happening in the public space because they haven't integrated all of these new channels. It's exactly like using the telephone.
Who's using it well?
I think there's a lot of people using it well, and there's a lot of people using it very, very badly. An example of a small business using it well, there's a photographer, and she, on her Facebook page, decided to get people to put up, she opened it up so people could post their photos, and you had to put your favourite holiday snap. and then you did, people would vote on it. But when I upload a photo to her Facebook page, all my friends get to see it. And then my friends want me to win. So then they vote for me. And she built this great buzz and momentum, and everyone knew she was a photographer. So she built her brand with this 1 week's activity. And she's continued to do different initiatives like that. So for me, that's a great example. And yes, Kodak could have done that, but they didn't. You know, little photographer in suburban Sydney did that.
So this isn't a product endorsement, but I must say that McDonald's do rather well as well. You know, I was looking there, just knowing that we were talking about this today, and they had a thing on there yesterday which was, you know, if your romance started in McDonald's, you know, talk about it here.
God help
I wonder if anyone put their hand up.
You know, I think, well, that's a great way to actually get people. They don't want. No one's going to sit there and want to talk about burgers and chips, but they'll talk about their life. And you know, I think it's a great use of it. And you know, they've got 98,000 likers on Facebook. That's not half bad. You know, so I think there are examples using it, definitely.
So we'd love to know, how are you using social networking? What's working for you? Who do you think is doing it well? Who do you think is doing it really, really badly? Thank you for joining us here on The Venture.